This is Mile High.
Do I want to tell the story or do I want to show the message?
You've got a lot of work to do between Mile High.
The time has come where we can know
we have a responsibility, an ethical and moral responsibility.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right, it is not. It is a receiver of thought. Because love is my first technique.
it's now time for the show.
Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Thank you for joining us from wherever part of the world you are joining us and whatever altitude that's at. We are, of course, at 5,280 feet, mile high territory, where I hope you have marked on your calendar to be in September. You can get all the details at riseuptomilehigh.com because you never want to miss any Mile High live tick. And you also never want to miss any Mile High virtual tick. So make sure you're in the Mile High group and make sure you hit subscribe. So whether you are listening to this or watching it on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, hit subscribe so you're already always dialed into chiropractic. And, speaking of that, we have a person on this episode that truly is always dialed in to chiropractic. It's something that is incredibly always impressive to me about him. He's always had a desire to add to people's lives, regardless of what way he does that. He had some health challenges at 17, and he, went down the road of discovering chiropractic. Maybe we'll discuss that a little bit. And after that, never, his health and life were never the same. He ended up down the road of visiting Logan College of Chiropractic to study, and he has an upper cervical practice like no other. And he's teaching chiropractors constantly. He was just teaching at Sherman College recently. He's owned and operated over 5 companies. He's currently the owner and CEO of the Atlas Institute of Health and Getting Weller, which is a very good use of wording. Welcome to joining us today, Dr. Eddie Weller.
Yeah, thank you. So it's always just interesting to hear somebody introduce you. You've done. There's many times as docs, even if you're just graduating school and then you're a month out, you feel like, man, I haven't done anything. You know what I mean? I haven't made a difference. And next thing you know, you're just like, wow, I have, and I have, and I have. So, and I think the point is we never stop. It's if I can share something a little personal with you, I remember about 12 years ago-ish, I got asked to speak in Vegas. And so it's a big conference. There's about 400 docs there and students. And I get up on stage and, Eddie Weller, right now. Some people know me, some don't. Well, they do the nice cheer. And I just, I'm going all out Trump style, right? I'm all in. And so I go all in, let it rock, and the place is going nuts. And they're like, and I jump in the crowd and I'm crowd surfing, right? And the whole nine. And so the place went nuts, and it was super cool. So it was a lot of fun, and it was really cool. So here I am feeling good, got the crowd going like I just rocked out a concert, right? So everything was great. And I get to the back room, have a sip of water, and I'm all the way almost to the back wall. And there's a few people sitting against the wall, and 2 of them are whales in the profession. And so I know one of them. And so they're chit-chatting, and I'm sitting like this, and the guy's right, everybody's all talking. There's another speaker on stage, and the guy behind him's like, how many thousands of people does that dude see a week? His energy's through the roof. And I went from I suck, right? Because we live in this world as chiropractors, we live in this world of compare to one another, and it's awful. And no medical doctors do that, by the way. They don't compare themselves. They don't care. But the chiropractors, we do this thing, and it deflated me, and it took me about 6-8 months to get over that headspace. And I think, no, Eddie, you've done this, you've done that, and just be you. My mouth doesn't shut up. That's why my mother's always said, you'll never make money because your mouth doesn't shut up, right? And so with that, when I see patients and I do different things with patients, I teach getting weller. That's the whole mantra is this: healthy body, healthy mind, healthy relationships. And we're surrounded by relationships. So that's what I do with people. And so, heck, 2 weeks ago, a lady brought in a new client paperwork. The second page of her paperwork was her suicide note.
Oh, and wow.
So she sat down with me. She goes, I hear you help people.
Wow.
So I threw the paperwork on the floor. I got on my knees and I said, we're going to pray right now. right now. We're going to ask God in this conversation right now. And so those are the things that, again, don't stop. That's how I roll. But, you don't have to be me, because you'll never be me. And know what? Good news, I'll never be you. And so just be you, and I think that's my, almost takeaway today is that you have to just stay the course of who God made you to be as a chiropractor, period.
Yeah. And, it's interesting, you can be people can be doing really well until they compare.
Yeah.
I learned that lesson long ago. It's not necessarily something always easy to do, but
Yeah.
it's true, right? Sometimes the things that are really important are not necessarily easy to do,
Right.
So, it's a reminder. And that thing is like the numbers you see, that is that comparing, it's like the chiropractic way of saying how much you bench,
Right. And it was, my son is on the junior PGA, and he actually had a tournament yesterday. He won his first all-out tournament. He was first in everybody. He's 12 years old. He beat all the 18-year-olds. And so he's just playing very well. And I taught him 2 years ago. I was caddying, and I walked on over to this other kid's ball who he's competing against, and this kid's beating him. And I walked down over. I go, Liam, and I pointed at the ground there at the ball. I says, nobody is going to hit that ball but him. I'll show you something. So we walked over to Liam's ball. I said, nobody, pointing down the ground, is going to hit your ball but you. So only be concerned about your ball. And I think we do that in practice. Only be concerned about your own practice.
Right.
I'm 26 years out. This is my 14th practice that I just built out. We just opened up.
Oh, wow.
About a month ago. Just started my 12,000th patient.
14th practice.
14th. And
wow.
So I don't recommend doing that, by the way, but there's a whole lineage of why that happened. But again, it's I can share some of those stories. So it's just craziness, but good stuff. And change to me is growth, and change is the only thing permanent. And I think that's the important of the adjustment is that you're not fixing a condition. You're allowing the body to change and adapt to the environment that you put it in, emotionally, physically, chemically, spiritually. And I think
let me ask you. So let me ask you, first of all, how, this fire and passion and enthusiasm that you have for chiropractic and helping people through chiropractic. Let's go back to say, how did that start? Meaning, how did you find yourself on the chiropractic path?
Sure. I was going to school down in Florida to be a cop. I grew up in Chicago. That's why this doesn't shut up. But I grew up in Chicago, moved down to Florida to be a cop right out of high school in 1990. Okay. And I was suffering from age 17-ish, developed into irritable bowel, having some really bad bowel movements. I'll spare you the details. I also struggled terribly in school. And so I had a 10 on my ACT. I graduated high school at a 3rd grade reading level. And so I moved down to Florida to be a cop. Thank God for these places called community colleges. Everybody gets in. And so I went to community college, got to get my associates there, and I started going to criminology and doing all that stuff. And I meet this girl. I'm new to Florida at the time. I didn't know anybody. And I met this girl while I was down there. Started dating her. And she's like, we're getting kind of serious. I want you to meet my family. I said, I'd love to. So I go to her house. They're barbecuing, right? So I go to the house. I was 21. I go to her house, and you never know when irritable bowel's gonna be irritable. It was irritable that day. And so I need a restroom right now. So I walk through the kitchen. I see her father barbecuing, walk through the kitchen, the little pocket door, right? Have my Dumb and Dumber moment. So here comes her father from barbecuing. And he's like, where's Eddie? And she's like, well, he's in the bathroom, Dad. He has irritable bowel. He said, he doesn't have irritable bowel. He's got pressure on his brainstem. I'm like, what's wrong with my brain? I got teased enough as a kid. Remember my grades and all that, I had no idea what he's talking about. So I come out of the bathroom. He's like, how long have you had that? I said, since 17. He goes, no. You had a long time before 17. That's just when the symptom arose. That's when the condition starts showing up. I'm like, okay. He goes, you have to understand, Eddie, that the signals from your brain down your spine, with the nerves out of your spine, going to your colon, your tummy, are not working the right way because your brain doesn't send irritable bowel signals.
Right.
When you have abnormal nerve signals, you create abnormal things. Go on. That made sense to me. Hence, my first book is called It Just Makes Sense. So,
I love it.
Yeah. And so this is why I'm like, holy cow. What? He moved a bone in my neck. I went from C's and D's to A's and B's. Irritable bowel was a thing of the past. And I went to chiropractic school.
Oh, awesome. Around how old were you again?
I was 21.
21. Okay.
Yeah.
Super exciting. Super
I'm-
exciting.
Yeah, right. I'm 52 now. And so I don't know what that's supposed to feel like, but I feel ridiculous. And again, it's interesting, that same fire, I didn't really have a fire of chiropractic. I still had that treatment mentality, adjust the spine, fix a condition, because this guy was a big mixer that way. However, he had a Palmer philosophy mixed with that as well. No pun intended. Oh, I guess the pun wasn't intended.
Well, the pun wasn't true at one point, but then it kind of
This is true. So here I
Yes.
am, trimester 3, really questioning what's going on at Logan. Only reason I chose Logan because the campus was nice. And St. Louis has a similar feel like Chicago. I went to Palmer, at biscuits and gravy wasn't me. You know what I mean? I went to National and saw it up in Chicago. It looked like a Mets, I'm like, gosh, an awful vibe. And so I chose Logan. Logan's campus is stunning.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. So trimester 3, there's these 3 guys in front of the class reading these books that are colored green. And they're all from Arkansas, Alabama, and Kentucky. And here they call me the Yankee, right? So, and they're sitting up front like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, well, we're reading these books. We just listened to the speaker. He's coming back tonight. Who's this speaker? Kessinger. I'm like, okay, so this guy, Dr. Kessinger, great. He's over at an apartment complex. He's going to do a talk. He did a talk talking about the philosophy of this thing, chiropractic, and it lit me up. Tried 3. Because I was going up at the time, I went from Logan Basic to going up to Gonstead to learning about Gonstead and, its science and all that. I've always been intrigued with the science of chiropractic and how you have objectivity proving your work.
Right.
And so Logan didn't have that. Logan was just basic and moving vertebrae and how do you know it moved?
So first it was going down to visit Gonstead events. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep, I was up in Mount Horeb, Wisconsin, going up to
Great.
Gonstead, learning
Got
all
it.
of that. And then I asked myself, who taught Gonstead?
Right.
And then I went, I need to go find out who taught Gonstead, because he just tweaked it and called it his own thing. I'm like, okay, cool. So I went to, start going to Palmer a bunch, traveling back and forth and sneaking into classes, literally going into classes and sitting in there while I was a Logan student, sitting in the classes, like, what are they teaching them? What I'm not getting here. And then it fired me up. Try 4, game changer. So 1996, I started doing the Kale seminars back in the day because the Kessinger introduced me to that. And then it snowballed into, me growing into toggle recoil and that kind of thing. So 26 years later, brother, here I am.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. So I have to ask, based on that, you probably had a lot of people, like you said, what taught Gonstead, right? Or who did? So you probably had a number of people, probably not only upper cervical people, but people that influenced you chiropractically in either philosophy, science, or art. Who are some of the most impactful mentors that influence you?
Well, I remember going up to in trimester 7. There was a little debate happened at the Delt House here in St. Louis. There's no longer Delt in St. Louis. And there were these 2 gentlemen speaking. One guy named, what's his name again? Who wrote the blue books?
Strauss.
Yep, I'm being funny. So Strauss, Strauss and this guy named Gold, Dr. Reggie Gold.
Yeah. Mickey.
So they were speaking together.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's
They were
quite a
speaking
combo.
together at the Delt House. And so I was a little bit of a mouth, at the school. And so I'm trimester 7. And of course, when you're learning and you've studied a year, more than anybody else, right? Ego.
Right.
So I was a pain in the ass growing up in chiropractic. And so just half the profession. But so I'm sitting down with them and I said, I have a question for you. Dr. Gold, I am new to this and I eat, sleep, and drink. I have watched your stuff. I've listened to your stuff. I've read your blue books. I've got it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You have fired
Yeah,
me
you
up.
said this to him.
Oh, yeah. This
Okay.
one, I'm face to face. And I said, I have to ask you both a question. And there's a group about 40 students there. And I'm sitting down asking, I just saw you, Dr. Gold, lay your hands on that woman's spine. That girl right there, she's in my class. And you pressed on the middle of her back through her shirt. School teaches skin on skin. I'm new. School teaches skin on skin, and you thrust it through her polyester to hear a cavitation, and you called that an adjustment. How do you know you adjusted her? And
Did
the
you
whole
say
room
that?
goes-
You said that.
The whole room goes, and he's like, innate knows. I'm like, I understand innate knows. The intention of an adjusted thrust through that vertebrae, I get it. But how do you know an adjustment was made? He got up and walked away.
No.
And so I'm like, got up and walked away. And so he walked into the other room, talked to a bunch of students. And then so here Joe Strauss is sitting there. And I said, I had the same question. I said, I'm not questioning your art. I'm questioning if it's a philosophy, science, and art, where's the science to prove our work? And so that's when I really started going, who am I going to listen to right now that ties in all three of those? And so I start reading more and more of these things called green books.
Right.
Because BJ eats, sleeps, and drinks. And I remember at trimester 8, and Reggie and I got along quite well. And so because he got to know me, right? Who's this loudmouth kiddo? So now it's try 9. I'm at Palmer. He's speaking up there, and he's like, I'm going to tell you guys why BJ Palmer is a mixer. That's how Reggie started his talk.
Really?
Yep. I'm going to tell you why
funny.
he was a mixer. Because he used chiropractic to treat conditions. That's not what we do. That's not the. And then once I learned his nerve chart, right? Once I got Reggie's nerve chart to understand the power and adaptation of proper nerve function, that's my respect for him was through the roof, and I just listened to all his stuff. So Reggie was a big influence for sure, because you couldn't push him. You couldn't push him. Philosophy, he was solid. I could push him on a scientific side all day long, but on the philosophy side, he's like, Eddie, I remember graduating, I was talking to him, he goes, Eddie, you're doing box on the wall. I did box on the wall for 3 years. He's like, Eddie, you're doing box on the wall. He goes, yep. You want to see a lot of people and make an obscene amount of money? He goes, charge $100 a month per family. You won't know.
Oh, did he?
Yep, that's what he said to me. Charge $100 a month per family. And you won't know, or you can do the box on the wall. But I'm just telling you, charge $100 a month per family and watch, you won't know what to do with your money.
Right.
So it was really interesting, that whole driver, because money's never.
How did that go?
I'm sorry?
How did that go?
I didn't charge. I didn't know what to charge. To me, it was priceless.
No, but did you do what he said? I'm saying.
No, I did not. I just did donation. I did straight to like Joe Strauss kind of thing. I did donation for 3 years. I put a box on the wall, GPC, God patient care, pay whatever you want. I still have a box in my office right now. 14 practices later, I still have a box. And so I've got people who can't afford it. And so I don't discount these are my prices. I charge $200 a visit. So these are my prices. This is what I charge. And if you can't afford that, I walk them over to the box and you can put money in the box. I'm not going to deny you, because I don't want Christ walking through my door and going, what, your wallet's more important than my people? Nope, not on my watch. And so it's so that's how I like to roll with it. And it's so freeing, you know what I mean? Where you don't make it about you anymore, you make it about it. And I think chiropractors need to do that, because there's so many. I'm speaking to myself too. There's so many chiropractors out there that make it about what they do and who they are versus what we serve, what we offer. I had 4 new patients last week. All 4 of them came from different chiropractors in the neighborhood. Why don't I refer to chiropractors all the time. Somebody comes in and my shoulder is frozen. I know a kind of sports medicine chiropractor. Go, right? We should refer to one another. And I don't think we do. And it's because my technique's the best. And if that doesn't work, then chiropractic failed them. No, sir. No, sir.
Love it. Love it.
Yep. And I guess, if I were to say what I'm saying to you right now, 15 years ago, that would have never left my mouth, because I'll tell you why you suck and I'm better than you.
Now, you mentioned about, we talked about some upper cervical things. We talked a little bit about, how do you know a person's self-explanatory or not? I think we're going to talk about some books. We'll talk about thermography and things upper cervical. Sure. Before we do that, you were talking to me as we were setting up about some new fangled glasses or something.
Oh, yeah. So
can you share that with people? Because we were talking about, like, how do you know the person gets,
so check this
adjusted,
out.
right?
I just shot some videos on these. So these new range of motion glasses from Titronics. So all you do is you have this instrument here. And so you have this instrument and you stand behind the patient, you put this on their back and you just stand and you hold it on there and you have them. You can do every body part. Turn your head to the right, turn your head to the left, X, Y, Z axis, right? And look up, down, left, right, lateral flexion. And on the computer, it'll calculate digitally of the goniometer. It'll go 72 degrees, 65 degrees, 27 degrees. So what's nice about that is as chiropractors, what we do is we find ourselves going, boy, that's really restricted. Yeah, but what's the number? And then if you have a gauged number and objective, because I can't guess, this is an objective reading, right? Like a thermometer. So if it's an objective reading, then after my care plan, whatever that was in the beginning, I put the glasses on again and say, wow, look at the changes on a functional structural movement that we're making on you. It's great. I'm also a huge fan of thermography, right? So I scan the spine. This isn't a technique thing. So I scan the spine and your spine pops up on a 40-inch screen that's sitting there. And so when they sit down, they get scanned Like we saw 44 people yesterday. Of the 44 people yesterday, 11 got adjusted because the other ones were holding their adjustment. My thermographic reading read clear. I don't touch you. And so again, that's some of the things that we need to implement as chiropractors. And here's
And you said that's some Titronics.
the Titronics.
Oh, that's neat. I'd never seen that before.
Super awesome. They've got, the science of Titronics is going crazy right now. I actually have a meeting this afternoon about some thermal cameras that we're doing too. So it's just awesome. And we need data. Here's my question to every chiropractor out there. What's a chiropractic exam? Whatever you do in your office is a chiropractic exam. That's why in the first book I wrote, We Are the Box of Chocolates, because patients have no idea what they're going to get. If I'm a cardiologist and you're a cardiologist and I'm in Hawaii and you're in New York, we do the same exams because that's what cardiologists do.
I'm writing that down, box of chocolates, just so you know.
We don't know what you're going to get. And that's the problem. There are 114 chiropractors within a 10-mile radius of my office right now. 114. And they all do something. I have the joint across the street. I can see it right there out my window. There's the joint. And so they're all doing something different and they all think they're right, including me. But in order to say that you're right, what are you doing to prove your work? So, and I think that's the biggest pickle is there needs to be some sort of, what is a chiropractic exam? And let's create a base reading. Anything on top of that exam, great. But what's the baseline reading for chiropractors? Some take x-rays. Logan College teaches don't take x-rays until the 4th visit, because if they don't have any symptom relief, then you should take some pictures. It's just backwards. And so I think of all of the different schools and what they do and how they teach. Logan College, when I was trimester 7, put me on the disciplinary board to kick me out of school.
Wow.
Dr. at the time says, you need to go to Life or Sherman and leave here. This is not the place for you.
Who told you that?
Dr. Goodman, who was the president then. Yeah, his son Jason works at the school now, and they still can't stand me. It's so silly. But so when I was there, I said I started a petition, and so I started a petition. I won the petition. They kept me there at school. I called Palmer, got Stazuski from Palmer to come on down to Logan and start doing weekend seminars on toggle recoil. And so that's how toggle got down here in St. Louis, and and so now he's no longer. He rarely ever shows up. The last time they had a toggle sign on up, upper cervical sign up at Logan, only 4 people signed up and 215 people signed up for acupuncture. We're in trouble.
And I know this is why, you put a lot of energy to some of the things that you're doing, like a lot of energy that you do not need to, but you actually do need to, right? Right. And I know the experience because I put a lot of energy into Mile High that I don't need to, but I do need to, right?
Hey, as DJ said, I'll sell it, save it, and serve it for 20 lifetimes.
Yeah. So, and I do it because of all the stuff you just said, because it's really disappointing and it's painful to see that happen in such an amazing profession. Now, that's also probably you put a lot of energy into the books you've done. You've done 3 books. It Just Makes Sense, Infrared Thermography, Dr. Bones. Can you tell us, and I think you have a 4th book coming out, I think maybe. Can you tell us about those 3 briefly and what's going on with the 4th one and how people get them?
It still sounds so weird because remember, I'm a guy who graduated high school at a 3rd grade reading level, and now he's writing textbooks. You don't think chiropractics changed my life? Right. And so it's just nuts. The first book, It Just Makes Sense. It was a booklet that I made for upper cervical docs that can teach patients. It wasn't about any technique. It's just understanding the importance of the atlas and everything else thereof. I have a new 2nd edition of that coming on out. I'm going to include all of the upper cervical techniques that are out there, so patients know, like, wow, I didn't know all of these. So at least people can get educated that way. Dr. Michael Lee and myself, we co-authored a book, The Infrared Thermography. It's a textbook for chiropractors, all science, no art, no philosophy, all science, and the importance of thermography and the history and the neurology behind it. It's almost a 300-page textbook. Sherman has it, Logan has it in the bookstore. So we're going to start blasting that. I got some final tweaks and a 2nd edition coming out of that. I found some things I needed to add to it that we didn't on the 1st edition. I've always wanted to write a children's book. I don't see a lot of kids. My office is particularly quiet. It's chill. Kids make noise and they stink. And so there's certain times that I have kids that come into the office and I cluster book them, which makes it fun. Then they're all over. But then with that, parents are like, why should, I know I'm getting checked, but my child's fine. My child's fine. How do you know? And so I'm like, we need to get something simple. So I wrote Dr. Bones Healthy Safari. You can see it on Amazon. So Dr. Bones Healthy Safari, no technique at all, right? This is just the importance of the spine and the nervous system, talking about Max the monkey and Dr. Bones getting the animals adjusted. And then they meet Ryan and Sarah. Sarah's expecting. She has a baby on the safari, and I won't ruin the rest of the story. And so it's just an easy, fun read about the importance about living in the now, being on purpose, and then thriving through a proper functioning nervous system.
Excellent.
Right?
Excellent.
So the fourth one is going to be a textbook. I've got an online program that's launching. We were talking a little bit not too long ago, called the Chiro Legacy Club. And so the Chiro Legacy Club will be right now there. I think there's 77 videos in the library.
77. Oh, yeah. Tell me about the Chiro Legacy Club. Wait, you kind of just brushed over that. Wait. All right. Okay. Chiro Legacy Club. What's that?
So we need to create a legacy within our community. Not only outside of the profession, right, in our community, but inside our profession as well. Who are you leaving a legacy? Don't you? We always talk about standing on the shoulders of the other giants. Do you want to be a giant? So in your own unique way, you don't have to see millions of people a day, but your own unique way. So how do you create a legacy in your community? So I've got these videos that talk about everything on how you hire, how do you adjust infants, a family comes on in and that says, I can't afford it. What do you do? How do you get them? How do you close them? That kind of thing. So everything under the sun when it comes to practice. Patient says, you hurt me. What do you do? Another patient says, hey, would you like to join me for a glass of wine? What do you do? All of these things they don't teach at school. I have people rest, Danny, after their adjustments. Right. I've had people get naked in my resting beds. Straight up. And so, they're in a miserable marriage. They get naked in their resting beds and they're like, how do you deal with that? I'm not saying you're going to, but there's certain circumstances in your office you need to legally navigate. So I have videos on those. And so there's just all of these things that I have had to deal with. I'm like, wow, I can't be the only one dealing with some of this stuff. And so there's many docs that contact me. I had 11 yesterday. Contact me yesterday, 11 or 12 last night, that we're going back and forth. They send me x-rays. I've got a patient with this. Someone so said they can't afford this. So what do you do? I'm like, man, I can't answer all of these. Go to the Legacy Club. So that should be launching any day now.
Wow, how are people going to find that? Because I'm going to search for that.
And it's going to be so darn cheap, like $100 a month and you get unlimited these videos. So ChiroLegacyClub.com. Like I said, God willing, that should launch this afternoon or tomorrow. So it's, where are we at right now? August 7th. So it's going to be pretty darn awesome.
Awesome. So exciting. I mean, you're a busy guy. We've had you speak at Mile High before. We're going to have you speak at Mile High again. Like it's been too much of a hiatus. So
I'd be honored.
Yeah. By the way, I know you obviously, I know you spoke before and you're going to be there. You're attending this year. What do you love about Mile High?
Oh gosh. I think remember at the beginning, we started this, the world of compare. There's no compare.
Yes.
Right? There's no compare there. Everybody's like, hey, what's up? How are you? I mean, it's almost like a high school reunion, but nicer, because high school reunion is still cliquey. I don't see clickies there. And so
I love that.
Thank
you for saying that.
It's the doors are wide. They're very broad there. So anybody can walk through those doors and feel comfortable at Mile High. That's what's cool about it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for saying that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there this year. So now let's a little bit go deeper. Obviously, you're a very big proponent of thermography. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. And so many people don't use objective measures. It's something that drives me bonkers. And this is coming from a person that back when I was in chiropractic school, I said, I'm never going to use any kind of x-ray or any kind of instrumentation. My hands are that good. Like I've grown from then, and I'm a big proponent that you have to use some kind of objective outcomes. I don't care if you use a weight scale or the goniometer thing you just showed, but you use something that you can know what's going on with the patient. And
something I think outside of your own thinking.
Exactly. Some objective. I use the word objective. Some objective measure that and use as many as you feel like you can, because the more objective measures, the better, right? So you can see one might say one thing, another might say another thing. right?
Yeah.
And to put those together to serve, but not for you, not for sales, but for the patient, you know? So talking about thermography, which I am a big proponent of, why is that important? Why do you love thermography? Why do you think it's valuable?
Well, there's, as there we go. Let's just bring it up on the computer. So I
can
have the
see
screen
it.
up there, right?
Right.
And so there's thermography. And so I have a patient of mine, he's been with me about 8 years, and he was rear-ended. He was just got rear-ended. So he's been with me some time. So I said, let's scan you. So I do a scan on him and I said, wow, there's some new readings that's going on. What's going on with your spine? He's like, I was in an accident, on and on. I'm like, okay, so I do 3D imaging, CT, take some images of his spine to make sure structurally things are good. Then I do a thermal scan, because chiropractors, hear me. You don't care what the spine looks like. You're more concerned about what's inside of it, right? It's the soft tissue, the neurologic tissue that we should be more geared towards. We can't fix the structure. And yes, the structure will move, but I can make a cadaver have a beautiful looking spine. I can't make it alive. And so this is why it's so important. I think that, yes, we're concerned about the structure that's protecting it, but I'm really more concerned about what's going on inside of it. And then what's going on inside of it is our philosophy, the neurologic system, logic in the nerve. Who put it there? God did. That's how this rolls. And so if we can tie in a science to the spiritual aspect of the chiropractic side, good happens for people because you can't refute it. And so when people say, oh, you didn't help me, and I can show them there's before and there's after, I know I've done something constructive for you. That's what thermography offers.
Right.
And again, this isn't a technique thing. How you want to adjust is your call. I just make sure that if you're telling the patient that they're subluxated, yes, I still use that word, but if you're subluxated and there's something neurologically wrong, prove it.
Right.
And then when you prove it, then you made an adjustment, prove it. And so you can prove that they're subluxated, there's another problem. You can prove when they're not.
Right. Right.
And so it's, and that's the importance of it. And so when he came on in and we were chit-chatting about all of his different issues, I'm like, I'm going to help you, man. I'm going to help you. And so he was in yesterday, and he was clear. And so, when I look at his nerve system, that line is straight as an arrow on the screen.
Right.
When his line is straight. That was last week. I adjusted you. You're still holding your adjustments.
Right.
So holding your adjustment is the key. And I think chiropractors like, well, I'm adjusted 3 times a week. I don't water my plants 3 times a week. And so you water the plant when it needs to be watered. You adjust the spine when it needs to be adjusted. I did a talk with a bunch of patients the other day, and I sat down with them as a family, and I said, do you go to the dentist together? And they're like, well, yeah. I say, okay. So only one of you are under care with me. You're all here.
Right.
Why aren't you? If your teeth are that important, why isn't your spine that important? Because you don't know it. You're ignorant to it. You're not stupid. You're just ignorant to it. So I want to teach you something. If you can have tooth decay, you can have spinal decay. Problem is you can't see the spinal decay. So what are you doing for your spinal hygiene? Because you make sure your dental hygiene is good every 6 months. You should see your chiropractor once a month to make sure neurologically that your body.
Right.
People we need to share that same message across the globe. There's plenty I'm in a really busy street right here. There's 45,000 cars that drive by my office every day. And nobody knows who I am. I don't even have a sign in front of my building. And so, I don't. There's no sign here. I have flowers. I said, I'm the flower house. And it's people just come based on a referral. That's how I do it. It's a referral base, but it's how, you have to do it how you want to do it. However, prove your work. Again, you have the range of motion glasses. So I know functionally what's going on. I know neurologically with the infrared thermography. So that's why we wrote a textbook on it. And so that second edition should be done in about a week or so. I'll blast it to you, Danny. It's going to be all over online. So people can see this textbook and kind of flip through it and look at the neurology related to thermography.
Right.
So it's so important. Hold on one second. Hold on. Good. All right, I'm back.
So do you feel that
1923?
Oh, wow.
1923. This is the original instrument, 1923, and
wow.
Like a champ. And so BJ in 1924, I talk about this in the thermography book, said if the hour is struck, it's his talk. If you're not using a gauge, you are guessing you're not a chiropractor, and the profession split in a million directions.
Right.
1924. Right. So he had a gauge. It wasn't technique based. It was chiropractic based.
Right.
So that's my passion. My passion right now, my move, I was that close to shutting down my practice. And I just happened to open this one up. I wasn't going to continue at all. I was going to go on a rampage and teach. And so I am that close, to be honest with you. I've got some investors to leaving the profession and starting a new one and taking all of the straights and call it something else and let the mixers continue to ruin this name and create something new so we can keep it principled.
Yeah, and that's something that's always, it's something that always is a concern, because you're like, oh, what's going to be the future of the profession? I want to ask you about the instrumentation though. Do you feel that that helps with certainty as a practitioner?
Well, it relieves, nothing's worse than when you lay your hands on, you're on the chiropractic table, you lay your hands on somebody, and I hope this is the right area. I hope I'm doing something constructive. And when you hear cavitations, chiropractors believe cavitations and adjustment is just gas leaving a joint. And so again, Logan Basic, you don't hear cavitation, they're making change, toughness, you know what I mean? And so again, you didn't hear a cavitation to subluxate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so again, cavitation is not an adjustment. The certainty is if I've done, like a medical doctor, I take your blood pressure. Wow, that's high. They give you a script. You take a pill, take your blood pressure. Wow, that's normal. Stay on the meds. That's their certainty that the drug is working for you.
Right.
Whether you like that or not, that's how they gauge it. As chiropractors, wow, there is something structurally and neurologically and functionally off. How do you know? Well, I can see it. Can't you tell? Yeah, but no, I have gauges. So I have data, objective data. So we're going to put you on a care program. Everybody's on a 12-visit program with me in the beginning, once a week for 12 weeks. After 12 weeks, we do the data again and do a comparison. So look at that. But every visit, somebody gets their spine scanned.
Right.
Every visit. But again, that's how I do it. But there should be a gauge that you don't, and if you don't have, I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter. Have something. Again, scales. I've got 2 scales. 1 foot on one, one on the other. Stand up. Wow, they're balanced now. Cool. We're doing something structurally. The body's going in balance. Something. I had a guy who's 47 pounds on the right hip. 47 pounds. I said, when you're walking, you have a 50-pound dumbbell in your pocket. How's your hip doing? Oh, it's killing me. Sciatica? Yeah. Erectile issues? Yeah. Any hip surgeries? 2. Wow, I'm a genius. You know what I mean? So, I mean, my gosh. And so it's, again, the chiropractic is such a simple thing, and it's so simple, as Kale said it, it's simplex. It's so simple, but there's such a complex thing inside. And I remember, because Kale and I butt heads bad, but I respected him. It's fun to butt. I respected him. And he said, boy, let me tell you something, boy. And I said, okay. He goes, oh, he was just a trip.
Yeah, he was.
He goes, watch this. We do 1% of the work. Innate does 99% of the work. And our ego takes 100% of the credit. And he nailed that. And it's so true. And so I help people get well. No, you don't. Innate, I didn't create you, so I don't fix you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when I had a guy come in the office and I looked at his paperwork and it said, smoker, nice to meet you. I can't start you. I don't start smokers in my office. That's my policy. You're outside killing yourself. You're going to blame your failures on me when you're killing yourself. I don't start smokers. So that's one of the policies I have. And so I don't want to smell it. I don't want to be around it. Sorry, right? And I think as chiropractors, we will do anything for anyone. And I saw there's a franchise called 100% Chiropractic that's out there.
Yeah.
Right. And I saw I know a bunch of those people that are struggling real bad right now. And they call me and I said, not to say it's a bad franchise, people. I'm just letting you know that they're struggling. But one of their ads says, we do acupuncture, we do massage, we do that. I thought it was 100% chiropractic. Nothing's wrong with acupuncture massage, but why are you doing that? It's not chiropractic. Right. So when people, John Goodfellow is a friend of mine in Chicago, probably one of the straightest I've ever seen. And so we were in practice together. He graduated in 98. He graduated Palmer. He worked with Crowder. But I remember in the practice together, we practiced for about 1.5 years together, and we did our own thing, whatever. Still buddies. I was talking to him last week, and I said, John, I remember when a patient was in the office and we're sitting there, they said, what kind of diet should I have? And you looked right at her and says, you should talk to a nutritionist. And then later that afternoon, somebody says, what kind of exercise should I do? And he says, well, you should go see a personal trainer. And it's, again, why do we want to be everything for everyone? As I teach the students, this is what I was teaching Sherman, McDonald's, I've said this forever and I'll say it again. McDonald's is very capable of making hot dogs, but that's not what they do. Right. But if a chiropractor was running McDonald's and you ask for a hot dog, stay right here. I'm going to go to the store. I'll go get it for you. Right? Nothing's wrong with saying this is what I do and this is what I offer. Yeah, but why don't you do what they do and they do and they do? And my reply is, because if it worked, you wouldn't be in my office.
Well, and also because you can't be all things to all people. Like,
Right.
there are great people that, bake cookies.
Yeah.
I love cookies. I think cookies are great. And
Yeah.
I'm not one
Just
of the
not what
people.
I
I
do.
could start learning it, but
Yeah.
I'd rather spend the time in this one area taking care of people. Maybe I'll have cookies at my office sometimes as treats that I'll buy from somewhere. I could
Right.
bake them, but like I'm not going to start making my office a cookie store, you know? So,
It's the same thing.
yeah,
It's the
it's the same
exact.
thing, whether it be acupuncture or cookies,
Yeah, right.
or maybe you may want to, have office space that you rent out to utilize the footage if you wanted some other thing, but like just do what
Sure, but
you
you're
do.
not it. It's the referral of.
Right, right, because it's a
Yeah.
different thing,
Yeah.
just do what you do rather than try to be all things to all people.
Right.
There's merit in other things. There's merit in cookies, you know.
Yeah. It totally is.
And there's
Totally
merit
is.
in acupuncture, and there's merit in all these. It doesn't mean that has
Yes.
to be you do that for everybody just because the person wants that.
Yes. Yeah. Then I totally agree. As we broke on that tangent, stop comparing, be what's driving you to be you. But it's unfortunate that most make a decision based on green paper.
Mhm.
And so, if I get paid, as I always, I keep money at the stash here and part of my new client paperwork. And I said, on this bill, it says, in God we trust. Do you?
Right.
Like,
Right.
do you, God's giving you a gift. Do you trust him? And
Right.
so that's how I like to look at it. And sure, we all have debt and bills and that. And so students are getting crushed today. Crushed. Logan's, the same, $285,000 to $290,000 in student loan debt.
Yeah, I know. And if you look, interesting, other professions are not charging that much for professional school.
No, but
I've
even if
heard
they were, they're getting paid a lot more. Chiropractors getting paid on the average of $50 a visit, $48 a
Mhm.
visit. You can't pay that off.
But you can be more successful if you actually deliver chiropractic because there's a shortage of chiropractors delivering. You actually stand out if you do chiropractic
Right.
and stand
Yeah.
for something.
But the downfall is you're calling chiropractic, and I could be painting a wall as a chiropractor, and they say, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing chiropractic." That's
Right.
legal,
Right.
and so that's what's wrong.
You actually you can stand out in an unfair competitive advantage by actually being a chiropractor.
Yeah, it's the absolute truth,
Yeah,
and so
it's
that's
true.
why everybody in town knows me. This is the neck guy.
Right.
Because I work here. So,
Right.
like, okay, go to this guy. You probably have something wrong. So that's what you get known for. What do you want to be known for? That's the legacy I'm leaving, right?
Mhm.
And so it's.
Well, I'm super. How are people going to find out about the Chiro Legacy Club?
Well, I'm gonna blast it everywhere, but that's the name of that'll be the website there.
So please put it in the Mile High group so we see it there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys will be the first one to have, and we'll give a Mile High discount.
Cool. I love it. I love it. Well, I really look forward to seeing you, and it's shorter than you think, in just a few weeks. On Mile High territory. I really appreciate the message, the heart, the service that you bring to the profession. I got to tell you, anytime you can spend time with Eddie Weller or learning from him is time well spent. Do you see what I did there?
Yeah.
So, and look forward to seeing you on higher ground. Everybody, I look forward to seeing you in Colorado, September 26th, 29th. And I have to tell you, I really, when you come out to Colorado, be wise and spend an extra day before or after. It is beautiful here. Take in the information. Don't just fly in for the hotel and come and go. Come early, go sightseeing, drive to somewhere. Bring your team, drive to the mountains. You will get even more out of it by just spending an extra half day. Okay. Because you deserve that to yourself. So thank you so much, Eddie, for being a servant to the profession for so many people around the world. Everyone, keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic. And we look forward to seeing you in a higher ground, September 26th, 29th, riseup to milehigh.com.